Hi, welcome to 16BitBench. Matt here. This is the 16BitBench kitchen, and the reason I'm all sweaty is because I rode my bike on one of the hottest days of the year from our house to the office to pick up some stuff. So we're going to take advantage of the amazing weather that we're having at the moment, and we're going to use that to retrofit some consoles. So let's take a look. Here we have two sorry looking consoles, original PlayStation and a Super Nintendo. And as you can see, they have suffered yellowing. They're also really filthy. So what we're going to do is we're going to use some chemicals to brighten these up. Now, I'm not going to pretend I'm the first person ever to do a retro brighting video on YouTube. That would be ridiculous. And of course, there's as many ways to do this as there are people that have tried to do it. Basically, the main idea is that we will be using a whitening chemical to remove the yellowing from these plastics. So the chemical I have is sodium percarbonate. It's the active ingredient in this stuff. I don't recommend you use the laundry whitening detergent because it has other chemicals in it that cause problems. And I'll show you the problems over here. So this is a grey Spectrum 128K plus 2 case that was extremely yellowed to the point of it looked like it had been smoking 40 cigarettes a day for the last 20 years. It was disgusting. And I didn't order any percarbonate. I just used the oxy action stuff. And basically, you can see what's happened here. It's kind of over whitened it on the edges and the seams. It's kind of sneaked in where there's edges, and it's caused it to go super white here. So that's annoying, and I will be making another video about how we deal with this problem and turn this back to being grey another time. But what we're going to focus on now is your basic retro brighting that you've probably seen the 8-bit guy do and you've seen other people do. We're just going to go over how I like to do that and how you need to do it in this country where it's warm about 3 days a year. So we get very few days where we can try this. So the things you'll need, as I said, sodium percarbonate, yellowed consoles, plastic bath, kitchen sink, hot tap, soap, and a sponge and a scrubbing brush. So step one, wow, the seagulls are loud today. Step one is to clean the consoles. Oh, I lied, there's more things you need. You need some tape, and we need some food wrap, clear food wrap, whatever you call it, wherever you are, need some of that. So yeah, this is all the stuff we need. Okay, so step one is put these in the kitchen sink and give them a good scrub. If you leave any dirt on these, they will block the action of the whitening chemicals. Clean them first. Right, there's no magic trick to this bit. Take the consoles apart as much as possible. Pop out the buttons, anything else that comes away. So took most of the buttons off. I haven't bothered with the lid close button because it's hidden anyway. Yeah, pop it all apart in the sink, hot soapy water, and give it a scrub with the soft brush. Don't use anything abrasive; you'll scratch the plastic, and we want to avoid that. But yeah, just a soft brush. You know, this plastic dish brush is fine. We're not using any harsh chemicals in the sink. Yeah, just like doing the dishes. Should have mentioned at the start. Get one of these as well, a magic sponge. I have a whole bag of these actually. You can buy them wholesale on eBay very cheaply, and they're just to remove any black scuff marks. Any scuff marks that really, the retro brighting process is not going to remove scuff marks or black marks. You have to remove those beforehand. If you leave them on, they'll just block the whitening chemicals, and then there'll be a yellow spot behind them. So yeah, get one of these. Good for removing ingrained dirt and black marks. Right, that's the washing up done. At this point, if you haven't already done so, remove any metal. So I'm going to see if I can get this spring off. I don't think I can actually. I think that spring needs to stay there. Well, no, I can get that spring. So that spring comes off there. There's a slider on the back of the lid with a screw that needs to come off. Remove any metal, just because the metal's going to react with the chemicals and it's going to corrode really quickly. You don't want to do that. Yeah, so we don't need to wait for this stuff to dry because what we're going to do is just put it in a tub of water anyway. So that's everything washed. Next step, get our tub and put our retro console pieces in it. Okay, so here's our plastic tub and we've got our pieces in it. You want to space them out evenly. This top is really brittle. This is the brother to the Super Nintendo that I'm doing the handheld conversion to, where the case is completely smashed. And this case has problems as well. You can see that crack at the front there, chip there, and the vents at the back are going as well. You know, they're ready to snap right off. So be gentle. So all we do is we've got a tub, we fill it with hot water, and we put half of our kilogram of percarbonate in there as well. So let's do that. Here we go. Obviously the percarbonate is water soluble, so it will dissolve. This is hot water. This is where the secret to this really comes in. So people talk about UV. UV is not really essential to this process. These chemicals, if you think about it, they're the same kind of chemicals that you use in your washing machine. They're the same chemicals that, you know, if you're using hydrogen peroxide or something like that, you use to bleach your hair. Neither of those two processes require UV to work. Your washing machine does not have a UV light in it, but your clothes still come out white when they finish the cycle. So the main thing that makes this work is heat. I don't think it's an enzyme reaction, but it is a reaction that requires heat. So hot water, you put it out in the hot sun for the day. That keeps the water nice and hot, and everything keeps warm. I think the UV is just a bonus. Maybe it helps the reaction, maybe it doesn't. But if you're not using heat, you know, if you're trying to do this on a cold winter's day, I just don't think it's going to work. You know, no matter how bright that sun is, if the water doesn't get up to temperature, it just won't work. So heat is the secret to using at least sodium percarbonate and hydrogen peroxide. They both require heat. I don't know if there's other chemicals out there that use UV or not. So yeah, let's shake this thing up. Here's our big bath full of water and sodium percarbonate, and I think the sodium percarbonate reacts with the water to produce hydrogen peroxide, and that's what does the whitening. So what we want to do is just agitate this a bit, make sure our crystals are dissolved. You want to put quite a lot of water in. I'm using 500 grams of sodium percarbonate, so that will take this entire, if you look at this entire thing is going to need to be filled up, so I'm going to have to fill up a bit more. You'll notice that the console pieces float. There's not much you can do about that. There's air bubbles underneath that are impossible to get, and also plastic floats. Try to avoid putting your fingers in the water too much. It is mildly corrosive or mildly harmful, this substance. I think it's an alkaline, so you know, it can hurt your fingers. But only if you sat there for 45 minutes with your hand in it. So doing this is fine. And you notice you get a kind of weird sort of texture. It's like greasy, but not. It's weird. Okay, cool. So this one is pretty much full up. So we'll move on to the next stage. Right, so you can see that our percarbonate is reacting in the warm water and is producing a gas. It's that gas that makes the process work. So we need to retain as much of that as possible. That's what the the food wrap's for. We're going to wrap over the top of this. Now it's not going to be airtight. I guess you could do it in an airtight container, and that probably would speed up the process. But yeah, it's not going to be airtight. But it's wouldn't you know it? I ran out of cling film. Like that cling film has been in our family for about 10 years. Anyway, ran out. But what I do have, and I'm not expecting anyone to have this, is this adhesive floor protector. You know, if you have contractors in doing work in your house, you know, when your floors to get all bashed up, you put this stuff down on your carpets and your tiles. Yeah, we had some of that left over in the cupboard, so I've used that instead. The fact that it's blue probably won't matter, but who knows. I guess we want UV light to penetrate anyway, and then we want infrared to be absorbed and heat it up. So the fact that it's blue may actually help us, because you know UV. No, if it's blue, it reflects UV. I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I'm just doing stuff, you know, that I know works, that I've tried and knows works. It's an experiment. Anyway, yeah, that's tub number one. So we've got a second tub to do with the PlayStation bits in it, and that's it. So what we now need to do is put this outside in the sun. So I've put the tub out on our little roof here. Check it out. That's the view. Is that nice? Yeah, so the tub's out on the roof there. It's just coming up for 11 o'clock, so it's going to be nice and hot for the next 6 or 7 hours today, and that's how long we'll leave it out. And I'll come back to this thing in the evening and see how white it's got. And the other one's going to go here next to it. So I'm just going to set the other one up, and exactly the same way. I'm going to cover it with this blue stuff as well, and we'll see how it goes. Can you see the reaction? All these little bubbles, these little oxygen bubbles, that's the reaction we're looking for. That's the percarbonate reacting in the water and turning into the gas. So I'm guessing it's hydrogen peroxide. I don't know if anyone's watching, of the 100 or so views I usually get. If any of you are a chemist, I would guess if you put sodium percarbonate into water, you're going to get some kind of gas, which is probably going to be a hydrogen gas, so hydrogen peroxide or something like that, and you're going to get a sodium deposit as well, so you're going to get some kind of salt. But I don't know. Don't quote me. It took a couple of hours to get the parts to the colour that I really wanted. Didn't take the 7 hours that I said, nowhere near that. I think we finished at 3 o'clock, so we started at 11, finished at 3. It was the 4 hottest hours of the day, really, and that sorted out almost all the case parts for us. So this is the second day. What I did when they finished is I poured out the sodium percarbonate solution, and then I filled the 2 tubs with just tap water, and now I put the case parts in there to soak, and also I've stuck in that spectra in my head as well, just to take a look at that. So you soak them in cold water, in just plain old water for a couple of hours, and that's to just remove the sort of salt residue that builds up from the sodium bicarbonate as it kind of leaves a deposit on the plastic. And then what we need to do is, I've got a couple of magic sponges here. We need to just take those parts out and give them a brush with a magic sponge, which will remove all of the sort of white residue that gets left on the case parts. After we do that, we just leave them out to dry, and then they should be pretty much done. I can tell already that I'm going to have to do some bits more. So you see this Super Nintendo front panel, that's a bit yellow. When compared with the uppercase part, you can see the color difference there. So that didn't take the brightening as well. And I think, I'm sure people actually know, I think all 3 of these Super Nintendo case parts are different plastics, because the bottom part, was in the water like this, and it's a different shade from the uppercase. And then this flap as well is a different shade. So they all seem to take the process a little bit differently. So yeah, I think these 3 different pieces are all different types of plastic. So so we leave it in the water to soak, and then we give it a rub with the sponge and let it dry, and then we see how it comes out. We've almost finished the retro brighting process. I've reassembled the PlayStation. The Super Nintendo needs more work, so we're not going to see that assembled today. But we are almost completely done with this guy. So there's one thing that I like to do is just give them a rub down with some WD-40. I don't know if you can see, but there is a cloudy white mark here. That was on there before we did the retro brighting. Some kind of oil or some kind of chemicals penetrated the plastic, basically. I don't think I can actually get rid of that white stain. But I think the whole colour of the console has definitely lifted. It's definitely much more in the grey area that it's supposed to be in. Buttons look really good. So yeah, just a little tiny dab of WD-40, and then we just go over the whole console and give it a rub down. But I'll just do the top now. Yeah, and I can see it's not really going to get rid of that white cloud on the lid. But yeah, but other than that, I think WD-40 is really great at just rejuvenating old and tired plastic, making things look a little bit better. So there we go. So that was how I've been doing retro brighting on a couple of things now, and it's worked for me. Obviously, if you've looked into this at all, there's loads of different ways to do it. People put like hair development cream on things and sort of wrap it in cling film, put it out in the sun. People build big UV heated tanks. So from, like I said, your main the main function is the heat. Sodium percarbonate in water is an exothermic reaction, which means it generates heat, so it warms up the water, and that helps it a lot. And then the UV is kind of the icing on the cake. A bit of UV sort of speeds along the reaction, but it would work just as well overnight as it does during the day. I did say, I think at the top of the video, that I'd leave it for 7 hours. I only ended up leaving it for 3 because it got so hot and it worked so quickly. Part of the reason it worked so quickly is because I use way too much stuff in there. I use 250 grams per those big tubs. I probably could have gone to 100 grams or 50 grams and it probably would have worked just as well, maybe taken a little bit longer, probably been less risky as well. But I got away with it, nothing's damaged. You know, this console looks really good. There's no, you know, other than that blooming on the top there, which was there before we started anyway. Yeah, it looks really good. So yeah, an easy and sort of hands-off way of doing retro brighting if you live in a hot country or it's summer where you are. So if you found the video useful, please like and subscribe. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. It's 16BitBench. We will be revisiting the Super Nintendo probably in a later video because I am gonna switch this mod it as well, and it does need to be it does need some work on it. The case parts are different colors. They didn't take the brighting because they're different plastics, didn't take it at the same rate. So yeah, thanks for watching and we'll see you next time.
What's happening?